It's difficult to turn an awkward and outdated property into a successful and well-designed home. And it's a mistake to think that a small development is an easy way to make money. Your development is going to cost you £50,000, I'm telling you it is right now. It will cost £50,000. So you've got almost no profit in it anyway. Small developments aren't necessarily easy developments, and a period cottage, though charming, can be a tough challenge for any developer. Take this run-down Victorian cottage in Stanmore, North London. It would take serious cash to turn it into a desirable family home. If you got it for a great price, it could be worth your while. But if not, any experienced property developer would proceed with caution. Amiya Kagalwala and Tracey Hamilton have just bought it. He's a business consultant and she's a nurse. They've just decided to become property developers. And this cottage is their first project. They sold their house and invested all their savings in it.
What seemed like a good idea before money changed hands is looking less like such a great idea, but we now own it, we now have to do something with it, and in its current form no one can live in there, and we really do need to add some value to that place.
Adding value is what property developing's all about. You need to buy low and sell high, but that's easier said than done in a place like Stanmore. This part of London is the 6th most expensive place to live in Britain, with easy access to both the city and the country. Prices here are already so high that it's a real challenge to buy a property and add enough value to it to make a decent profit. But now Tracey and Amiya's life savings depend on them being able to do just that. So how much did you buy the house for?
£375,000.
And how much is your total budget for the development then?
£25,750.
And you're very confident about that?
We're confident in the fact that we're not going to overrun it too much because we have no further money to overrun with.
Right.
So,
and how much are you planning on selling it for?
Realistically, probably £450,000.
My only question mark would be, having had a really brief look around the area, that actually the resale figure would be nearer 420, maybe 430 than 450.
We have done our research and we do know the area very well. I mean, this actual road is one of the most expensive roads in Stanmore.
So if you did sell it at 450, you'd be making nearly £50,000 profit on it. Tracey and Amiya bought the house for £375,000. They only have £25,750 to spend on the development. But if they stick to budget and manage to sell for £450,000, they'll make nearly £50,000 profit. That would be a 12.5% return on their investment, which is dangerously low. I'd recommend aiming for a 20% return. That way you should be safe if your costs go up or if there's a downturn in the market and your sale price comes down, which in this case I fear it might. But Tracey and Amiya are totally committed. They're renting a house a few doors down so they can spend as much time as possible on site. How long are you planning on living next door and popping here?
Our tenancy runs out on the other property in mid-May.
And we can't afford to pay the mortgage on this place and pay the rent on that place.
That's 7 weeks.
To make it livable, yes.
Yes.
Because you're planning on doing a massive amount of the work yourself, aren't you?
Yeah.
Which you don't have, if I'm being totally honest, any experience at all.
We've done enough IKEA items to put things together when we need to.
So you made an IKEA table and now you're going to refurbish your house?
Not quite.
No.
We've done IKEA
When you
table
put it
chairs.
like that.
That's quite a good point though.
Yeah, that is a good point.
Joking aside, this schedule is very tight. The plan is to break the back of the project in 7 weeks and then move in and finish it off in another month and a half. Amiya and Tracey want to do most of the work themselves, but they already have full-time jobs and absolutely no DIY experience. Their whole budget, and therefore their profit margin, depends on them sticking to this schedule. But I think it's over-ambitious. To make matters worse, they've taken on a very difficult property. The house was originally built as 2 cottages, which are now knocked into one, and like many conversions, the layout is less than satisfactory. This house is L-shaped with 3 small bedrooms upstairs along the front of the house and a bathroom to the rear. Downstairs is much less straightforward, with a kitchen at one end of the house, a dining room at the other, and a large freestanding fireplace awkwardly situated right in the middle of the one and only reception room. Tracey and Amiya plan to keep the downstairs layout almost exactly as it is, and that includes keeping the enormous fireplace. So the fireplace, you definitely want to keep it?
Yes, we're going to take out the first layer of bricks.
Right.
That will reveal the original fireplace behind it.
And you're also planning on knocking this right through and have an opening here?
Yeah. So that you can see all the way through to the other side.
So 1 fireplace, 2 sides, and it's going to look great.
I have to say, I personally, though you'll think I'm a terrible heathen for saying this, I personally don't think that this fireplace adds anything to this cottage. And it would be better in terms of the space to take the fireplace out.
Well, we've had a vision for a fireplace that's, as soon as you open the door, it would, people will see the warmth. And so, do we spend loads of money taking out a chimney when we think we can turn this into something that's really nice?
It is going to be thousands, but I would be surprised if you couldn't do it for around sort of £5,000. But I think it's £5,000 well spent. The problem is, if they don't get rid of this enormous fireplace, the layout will suffer. The area between the fireplace and the front door is dead space. Removing it and putting a new fireplace on the end wall would create a flexible, open-plan living room that would seem much bigger. Upstairs, taking out the chimney breast would also create more space. But Tracey and Amiya aren't really focusing on space. They want to make the master bedroom even smaller by adding an ensuite. I don't think they have the room, and they certainly don't have the money. There's no question that an ensuite's a good thing if you can get one in, but it's just a question of what you gain to what you lose. And I don't think this room's big enough to chop that piece out and still make it a really good-sized master bedroom. And it is just across the corridor from a really lovely big bathroom.
We think that would be quite a useful extra that the master bedroom could do with.
A little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. Tracey and Amiya have researched the fact that en-suites add value. What they don't realise is that if they make the master bedroom too small, it could stop the house from selling. Tracey and Amiya shouldn't mess around with the upstairs of this house. It's the downstairs that will make or break the asking price. And I think they're missing the property's biggest selling point. The courtyard garden that runs the length of the back is the kind of space that could work well as an extra living area, which this house could really do with. I just wonder whether the feature in this house is this courtyard.
We were thinking of sort of like a patio area here, but then we were thinking grass everywhere else. We just thought people, especially if they've got a young child, would want grass.
I don't think it's big enough for grass, because you'll end up with a muddy patch. So it keeps as a courtyard, not with these paving stones and not with this fountain, but you can make something really spectacular in a space. I think it could be, this could be the reason people buy this house. If you've got a garden, flaunt it. Especially if you have one that you can see from almost every room in the house. Investing in outside space can be one of the most cost-effective ways of adding value to your development. And cost-effective spending is vital on this development. Amiya and Tracey have already spent £14,250 on fees, leaving just £11,500 for the whole renovation. Of that, they've got £500 to do the garden, £2,000 to put in a new kitchen, £2,500 for the new bathrooms, £3,000 to replace the windows, £2,500 for all the decoration, and £1,000 on heating and electrics. That brings them to their total of £25,750. Once Tracey and Amiya have exhausted their budget, they have absolutely no more savings to fall back on. But that's not my biggest worry. Property prices in this part of London are stagnating, and I think they might even fall slightly. Although Tracey and Amiya think they know this area well, I fear they've overestimated their £450,000 sale price.
I would say that the house could be worth anything up to around 425 to 430 done.
Property prices have peaked in many parts of London, and the future is anyone's guess. So it's a nerve-wracking time to be taking on your first development. Amiya Kagalwala and Tracey Hamilton are hoping that this Victorian cottage in Stanmore, North London, will be the first of many lucrative projects.
There will be a light at the end of the tunnel, I'm sure. I can't see it yet.
Tracey and Amiya are investing £400,000 in this house, and they're banking on making £50,000 profit. Not bad for 3 months' work, if they can pull it off. The trouble is, they have no DIY experience between them, and they have no idea how to turn this house around. Best friend Jason, who's been dabbling in DIY for years, is on hand for some free advice, which is just as well.
I would have taken a sledgehammer to this, and we probably have water everywhere, so that would have been the first thing that's already been done differently.
Everyday tasks, he says and assumes any and every job will take 5 minutes, but in actual fact it can take many hours. Hopefully he'll learn a bit on this.
What Amiya needs to learn is that property developing isn't quite as easy as he thought it was.
So when you're taking out things like nails from the rafters in the ceiling, when you're peeling wallpaper, it actually doesn't look like you've done anything.
It's a lot of man hours that goes into something that you can't really notice much has changed,
and that
really.
is painful. And how are you supposed to feel? Depressed seems to be the only emotion that comes to mind here.
Amiya and Tracey both have full-time jobs, and they haven't allowed for that in their schedule. It's taken them 3 weeks to gut the house, which a professional would have sorted out in a couple of days. They now have 4 weeks left to get it fit to live in, because that's when their rent money runs out and they have to move in. Their schedule isn't remotely realistic, and I'm starting to think that nothing about this project is. So you're absolutely confident you're going to get $450,000 for your house?
Well, we've researched the area quite extensively, and we spent a lot of time doing that. Also, I've lived in the area for, over the course of my life, about 20 years, so I've had a good feel of that as well.
I'm going to show you this property here, because I want you to have a look at it and see how much you think this would be worth.
Okay.
This property is just a couple of streets away from Tracey and Amiya's detached cottage, and although it's a semi, it has a lot more to offer. Unlike their development, it has off-street parking and a large, mature garden. Inside, there are also 3 bedrooms upstairs and 2 good-sized reception rooms downstairs. It's got a really big kitchen breakfast room in here. So there's a lot of house. How much do you think it's worth?
I think it's worth about $460. I think it can go for quite easily.
It's actually under offer at the moment at $450, which is the same amount as you're hoping to get for your house. This, to me, flags up the fact there is a possibility you won't get what you're trying to achieve.
We think we're going to do a really good job on this place, and someone's going to fall in love with it and want to pay that little bit more for something that's totally perfect.
Amiya doesn't really seem to be listening. You can't budget for a development on the basis that someone out there will fall in love with it and pay above the odds. You have to keep up with the market. We've just had a couple of interest rate hikes recently, which is slowing the market, and really in lots of areas of the country it's reached its pinnacle point, and we have to face the fact that it is a slower market. It's a buyer's market, it's not a seller's market, and in a buyer's market you can't afford to put your house on for more than it's going to sell for, because it'll just sit there.
And that's why I think it's even more important that we make sure we do a really good job of the house and we don't necessarily skimp on really major areas like the bathroom and the kitchen and the flooring, things that people see as soon as they open the door.
Somehow you have to have a balancing act with making a really great product that's a really good quality product, but not spending any money that you don't need to spend, and somehow reining back on the spending, because I think if you get remotely out of control with it, you're going to be in trouble. I'm really worried for Amiya and Tracey. The worst thing you can possibly do is delude yourself that a property is worth more than it is. It's now 4 weeks in, and I've advised them to get a second opinion.
I would say that the house could be worth anything up to around 425 to 430 done as a finished article.
But still, Amiya and Tracey won't face facts.
I think agents will probably come in with a slightly better quote than that once they've seen the finished article. I think it'll be the sort of property that somebody will walk in and say,
I want it.
I really want to buy that, and they'll be prepared to pay.
The key to developing is realistic pricing. Make sure your budget for the development is based on reality, not fantasy. Just because a house needs renovating doesn't mean it's a bargain. In fact, unwitting developers are often prepared to pay so much that many rundown properties have become very overpriced. Get quotes for the work. Your budget needs to be based on what the property will actually cost to develop, not how much you happen to have in your bank account. When you're assessing your target sale price, don't bank on property prices rising. They might not. And remember, the national average sale price is just 94% of the asking price. So don't take any notice of what similar properties are on the market for. You need to know what they sell for. Four weeks in, and it's like the valuation never happened. Amiya and Jason have turned their attention to the fireplace. I think they should be knocking it down, but they're convinced that underneath this ugly cladding there will be rows of beautiful Victorian bricks waiting to be exposed.
And this is what it reveals.
Okay.
So what we found here is that it looks like they've had an original brick fireplace.
Yeah.
They then decided to plaster over the top of it with that stuff.
It's not much better on the inside
than
on the outside, really, and I can now see why they bricked it up, which is a bit of a shame. We thought that something would be better behind it.
I don't think
really.
it's beautiful, do you?
No.
Finally, Tracey and Amiya are coming around to my way of thinking. This fireplace is a total liability.
Some people love it, and the majority of people will probably hate it and think it's hideous. So I think we're better that it's gone.
This is a real breakthrough for this development. Oh, so you've chipped some off?
We have. It's actually coming down.
The whole fireplace is coming down?
The whole fireplace is coming
Hooray! Excellent!
down. Very soon.
That's brilliant, because it's going to make such an enormous difference to this room, having this great lump of masonry taken out of the middle. And to be honest, it's hideous, so they're in a win-win situation. And what sort of figure did it come in at?
2,500.
Gosh, that's good. I think you've got a really good deal there, so I'd bite his hand off and get him to take it out quickly. And they do. The next day, with the chimney stack supported, Amiya gets to demolish the 4,000 brick monstrosity. But he's still setting himself impossible targets.
8 o'clock in the morning, bank holiday weekend, and there's a lot to do before the next skip turns up. We need to get this fireplace, chimney breast, everything down in the skip and out. We've got be putting up the floor lintels, joists, and perhaps start building the walls. That needs to happen before I go back to work.
Hats off for effort. But having an unrealistic schedule won't actually speed a project up, whatever Amiya may think. Instead of paying for extra labourers, he's relying on his friend Jason again.
Amiya's setting quite a fast pace, and I'm probably not working quick enough at the minute 'cause I'm tired, so hopefully we'll meet in the middle somewhere.
Well, chap,
And,
you've had your break.
oh, you should say
Let's
that.
get moving.
He's that kind of guy. He'll see something, he knows he's going to do it, he knows he's going to finish something, and he'll just keep going until it's done.
3 skips and another weekend of Jason's time later, the house is a very different place.
Whoa! I'm not going to shed any tears over the lumps of bricks down there. I know I liked it when I first started this whole thing, but now
It's a little bit
I'm
different.
pleased to see it all down there in a
Yeah.
complete mess.
There is no regrets on that.
It totally changes the whole house. And it will, once the walls are up.
Can you picture
Yeah.
it?
It will be so
starting
much
to view
bigger.
Removing the fireplace has given them the space they so badly need to create a modern family home. But putting this house back together is a huge task. Amiya and Tracey still want to move in here in 3 weeks. I'm not sure how they think that is possible. And things are about to get more complicated.
Well, since we last saw you, we've found out that I'm pregnant.
Gosh, so that's going to put a bit of a spanner in the works, is it?
Certainly is.
Well, congratulations,
Thank
first
you.
of all.
Thank
That's
you very
very
much.
exciting.
Thank you.
And how's that going to affect this development? Is that...
Yes, it will considerably affect the development. What it means, we've now got 2 less hands to do some work.
Do you think it'll make a big difference being on your own now?
There's still many things like painting and decorating that can all still be part of a pregnant lady's jobs to do.
I think that's too strenuous, actually, myself. It's bad for you to do painting. I don't think you should do anything.
Put my feet up.
So I think it also puts additional pressure on the fact that in about 2.5 weeks' time, 3 weeks' time, we are due to move out of our rented accommodation.
So, are you concerned about being pregnant and living in a building site?
I am. We'll probably end up having to sleep on the floor and the house will be dusty and dirty, so that way it's not okay.
Another bit of news as well, hot off the press, is that we're going to America for 2 weeks in the middle of May for a wedding that's just come up.
You're mad. So you're meant to move out of your house in 2.5 weeks,
Yep.
go to America in 3 weeks,
Yep.
come back
To a
2
house that's livable.
weeks after, and
That's livable in terms of a bathroom, maybe a microwave and a fridge, and at least 1 bedroom.
From the very beginning, Amiya and Tracey have had over-ambitious plans for the budget and for the schedule. But now this project is completely out of control and they need to face facts.
It's likely that if we couldn't actually fully move into this place as it isn't ready for even basic living, then it's possible I would live here and Tracey would end up not being able to live here.
To be apart for potentially a few weeks.
It's far from ideal, isn't it?
Yeah, far from ideal for us. It's not something we're used to, being sort of apart from each other, and I find it very difficult, and even more difficult now I'm pregnant.
At this point in time, I'm worried.
I'm not surprised. Amiya and Tracey have invested their life savings in this project, and now they have a baby to think about. They need to accept they can't do all this work themselves, but with such an inadequate budget, they haven't got the money to pay for professionals. Desperate times call for desperate measures.
We decided to get an additional drawdown loan from our mortgage provider, and we're going to borrow an extra £30,000 to do this. That means we really do need to get £450,000 plus for our property.
I can't believe Amiya is now increasing an already unrealistic sale price. Just because he's spending more doesn't mean he can simply up his asking price. The first thing Tracey and Amiya do with their money is take on a professional project manager. They're hoping this will get the development back on track and free them up to go on holiday. But on day one, he does a professional assessment of the job, and it's not good news.
Now that we've seen the wiring in the house, we've come to the decision that the house effectively needs to be completely rewired. And to do that, we need to have access to all the floors, to all the ceilings. So we can't do the construction work that we plan to do this weekend and next weekend.
I mean, the worst case scenario is we come back from holiday and then obviously things haven't moved on as much as we would have liked, in which case the house won't really be livable, will it?
There's no reason why we can't continue and in fact finish work on the bathroom over the next 3 weeks, so that you have a usable bathroom and a usable bedroom by the time you come back.
The project manager could get this house habitable in just 2 weeks, if Amiya lets him hire some professional contractors. But it's not that simple. Amiya is still insisting he can do a lot of the labouring himself.
It's slightly unusual. It's partly the client's preference, partly the client's budget restraints which force us to do that. It can be done, but it's going to require a lot of sitting down in next week, and the key is the planning.
Unfortunately, planning isn't Amiya's strong point. He intended to put in the floor and stud walls with Jason, but now there's no time to do that before the trip to America. He's busy packing up their belongings because they have to leave their rented house. They're now homeless, and even Tracey is starting to think that Amiya is holding things up.
I mean, ideally we'd like to sort of come back and find that the gaping hole has been fixed and that we've got floors and ceilings in that place.
Certainly agree with Tracey that a few things could be done. On the other hand, we need to pay for it if other people are doing it. Every time we get someone else to do something, it costs us money.
Amiya Kagalwala and Tracey Hamilton want to make £50,000 profit for 3 months' work on this Victorian cottage. The plan was to move in after 7 weeks. It's week 8 and the house is nowhere near habitable. The budget is a distant memory, and Tracey has just found out she's pregnant. As if that wasn't enough, they've gone on the most badly timed holiday in history. They're 5,000 miles away at a wedding in Los Angeles. Back home, they've taken on a professional project manager, but the work is at a standstill. Amiya won't let him bring in subcontractors because he wants to do the work himself. But he hasn't got the time or the skills.
When he comes back, we're going to have to sit down and have a very serious discussion about what he can realistically contribute to this project.
A week later, Amiya and Tracey are back, and homeless. They're bunking down with Amiya's parents, who only live 10 minutes away from the development. And the very next day, Amiya is back on site, trying to help. Knowing your limitations is an invaluable skill when it comes to property developing, and Amiya hasn't really got it.
You're finding that some of the things you'd hope to do yourself, or that you can do them, are simply taking you a lot longer than perhaps we'd expected, simply because you don't have the experience, you don't know the shortcuts.
It's probably most things I'd like to get involved with in one way or the other. And even the plastering, even if there is someone else helping with the plastering, I'll still do a walls. It can be done. You know, there's so many walls to choose from. They can be working in one room, I'm working in another room.
It would be very useful to have somebody come in and take the load off your back.
It's one of those sort of balances again, where do we have enough slack in the budget to say let's bring people in?
Spend £1,000, we'd save 2 weeks. You can almost think of it that way.
Yeah.
Even though they're not cheap, project managers can be worth their weight in gold, but only if you let them do their job. They will cost you around 10% of your building budget, but they can save you money and time. They can take care of hiring reliable subcontractors and monitoring all of the works. They'll help you set a realistic budget and schedule and make sure you stay on track. I'd recommend you consider one if you're doing a major refurbishment and need a top-end professional finish. Your development is a long way from where you live, or if you simply can't survive without one. Finally, 10 weeks in, Amiya has hired enough subcontractors to get the job moving. But just when they start making progress, he and Tracey cause more delays in what could be their worst move of the whole development.
We're moving the kitchen. It's
Right.
probably the biggest, most radical plan.
Okay, where are you moving it to?
Into the extension area where the double doors are.
Okay.
It's all change. They want to move the kitchen to the other side of the house to create a larger open-plan kitchen diner. This will be lovely, but it will have a serious knock-on effect on the rest of the downstairs layout. It means the lounge is now opposite the front door, in the most unwelcoming part of the house. And the old kitchen will be turned into an office and utility room, which in a property this size is a luxury you can't afford.
It's a shame, because I think it's nice to be able to have the kitchen separately to the only living area that you have in this house.
You come in here, you sit down, you have your drinks and you've got your friends round. Then you go to the dining table, you have your dinner, you've got the kitchen. People can sit at the kitchen table, at the dining room table, the formal table, while you're cooking and chopping and doing work.
The main part of this house is inside the bay window, and that's the seating area. That's the core. That's the heart of the house. The thing is, where would you have a fireplace in here?
Right, what we do at the fireplace, this is the genius of it all. And what we thought is put the fireplace over there. So where that radiator is, in that sort of section.
Having a fireplace there is going to be unbelievable in terms of an original feature. It's believable on the end wall, it's not believable on that.
This layout is a real disaster, and it could cost them their profit. They will end up making this house look more like an open-plan studio flat, not the family home that they should be creating. And ironically, they're now back where they started, with the fireplace straight opposite the front door.
This is the one we really, really like.
We want to choose one that 90% of the population will fall in love with when they see it, and we think this will do that perfectly.
The fireplace itself is going to be about £1,500, plus the flue will be around 1,000, perhaps even more. And there are other options that will mean that you don't have to have a flue at all.
After kitchens and bathrooms, fireplaces are the most important interior design statement a developer makes. But they don't have to blow a huge hole in your budget. Even if you don't have a chimney, you can still have a fire. There are some really stylish electric fires, natural gas fires, and gel fires. These fireplaces can save you thousands of pounds on installation charges, which is exactly what Tracey and Amiya need.
These are relatively new in this country, but quite normal in America. And how they work is, there's this drawer which has these cans of gel in the bottom. Then you just light them like this. And it takes a couple of minutes to get the coals red so that it's really heated up. The great advantage with this is that the whole unit is complete. You could just move it anywhere around the room, and there's no flue required.
I don't want people to be coming around looking at the property and saying, I like the property, but because they don't understand this sort of newish concept.
I think the point is you can't afford not to put this in. And to waste an extra £2,000 more than you need to fitting a fireplace is nuts.
We have a choice between a real gas fireplace or gel fireplace, and we do have the ability to have the choice.
Well, you say you have the ability to have a choice, but your development is going to cost you £50,000. I'm telling you it is right now. It will cost £50,000. So you've got almost no profit in it anyway. So £2,000 saved is a good thing. I know you think it'll cost you 12, but it's not going to.
We'll see.
It's week 12, and a project where Amiya was supposed to be the main labourer is now crawling with professionals, none of whom were budgeted for. But Amiya's still determined to learn the tricks of the trade so that next time he can do it all himself.
If you've got to be sitting explaining what you're doing to everyone, then it adds time on your day or onto the job. You can try everything. A lot of it's simple, but I mean, it takes years to actually get it to a fine art.
Even Tracey can see that Amiya is slowing things down, and that doing the plastering himself is a crazy idea.
You want to do it yourself, and I appreciate that, but
you want it done sometime this year.
Yeah. I don't think we've got the time.
Yeah, I'm still going to have a go, regardless. I'm still going to do a wall.
And I think you should have a go.
And I will.
But I don't think you should overestimate how much you are going to do.
No, I'm doing a wall, and I'm doing a ceiling.
OK. But they might follow behind you.
I thought you said this was difficult. I would admit to being obsessive on this, and on many other things in life. It's all part of my learning on this, and also it's part of my inability to, like, let go of certain things. I really want to be part of it.
Truthfully, get the professionals in to do the plastering, because you'll just become so frustrated and so... It'll be just too much for you, really.
Thankfully, after one wall, Amiya gives up and lets the professionals finish the job. And with that, Clement's team is done. But the last 14 weeks have taken their toll on Tracey.
In the week, we had a bit of a scare where we had to go up to the hospital to go and see the midwives. And so they told me that I have to rest more and put my feet up and not be running around and doing too much, which is a little bit difficult when you're trying to renovate a house and doing a full-time job as well.
It's down to Amiya to get the house decorated, and he hauls in his martial arts class to help him out. No matter how behind schedule you are with the development, you should never rush the finishing touches. The key to successful developing is deciding what will add value to your house and therefore where to spend your money. Amiya and Tracey have got this badly wrong. They aren't going ahead with the ensuite, which is good, but they've insisted on installing their expensive fireplace, and they haven't increased their garden budget. And they've blown £7,700 on their kitchen. That's nearly £6,000 more than they budgeted for, and far more than they should have spent. 16 weeks into the project, and 9 weeks later than they'd planned, Amiya and Tracey are finally moving in.
Finally we're in.
It's fantastic, isn't it, that we've moved into this place. It's looking great. We've still got light hanging from the ceiling. We've still got a few bits to do, but we're going to be spending our first night here tonight.
But they can't afford to stay here for long. They need to get it on the market, and when they do, they're hoping that all their extra investment will pay off.
As soon as I walk through the door, people are going to see there's some quality here, and that will hopefully give them a great impression for the rest of the house.
I hope for his sake, he's right. After nearly 4 months, Tracey and Amiya's vision for this Victorian cottage is finally a reality. Taking out the fireplace has worked wonders for this house. An awkward ground floor is now an impressive open-plan room, large enough for a dining and living area. The soft light colour schemes and recessed lighting offset the room perfectly, though the new fireplace is an unnecessary extravagance.
It's amazing to think that this is where the fireplace was.
It certainly was. Yeah. Huge. In fact, it took up about as much room as this sofa did.
Yeah. It's just made such a big difference getting rid of it.
We've now actually moved in for the last couple of weeks, so we've actually lived it as well as sort of just designed it, and it works.
I'm not so sure. Moving the kitchen into the old dining room means the entire living area is open plan, which makes it feel a bit like a studio flat. They should have left the kitchen where it was, in a separate room, but instead they've turned this into a utility room with a desk area, which in a house this size is a very bad use of space.
It's a big room to be dedicated to just utility space and office, considering how small the house is and considering how expensive the house is.
Well, I think we've made quite a good use of space here. We've got the washing machine here, your ironing board, your hoover, and a desk where you can do some work.
I think this will end up as a dumping ground, which there's no doubt in a house this size. It's lovely to have a dumping ground. It's not adding any value, and I think that the house will be worth less.
The muted colour schemes continue seamlessly upstairs. The decrepit old bathroom has been transformed into one of the nicest rooms in the house, and the choice of suite is perfect for this development. But the big challenge up here was to make the cramped bedrooms look and feel more spacious. And I'm not sure this has been a total success.
Gosh, losing that chimney breast made a difference, because it did come right out to here, didn't it? So you've actually gained a lot of room. But what a massive, massive bed.
It's very traditional. It's what we wanted for this cottage.
It's exactly right.
This is the effect that we wanted.
To have a bed this big, in actually what's quite a big double bedroom, makes the room feel much smaller.
Tracey and Amiya seem to have dressed the bedrooms to suit their needs rather than their market. They've turned the middle bedroom into a nursery, which buyers without children would have to completely redecorate. Outside, although the garden is an improvement, I think they could have been a bit more creative. The design is a bit predictable, and I don't think the decking will date well. But the biggest problem with this development was their totally unrealistic budget. They were going to spend £25,750, and Amiya was going to be the chief labourer. But in reality, it was a very different story.
What did you end up spending?
We ended up spending £63,000.
How on earth did you spend £63,000?
To be frank, I had very little idea, and that became more and more clear as you get to more and more parts of development about how little, I think it'd be fair to say, we knew about how to do a place which needed so much work.
The biggest additional costs were down to Amiya overestimating the work he could do himself. They had no choice but to bring in a project manager at a cost of £3,000. And having to bring in a team of professional builders to take on the work cost a massive £19,500. Removing the fireplace cost £2,700. Putting in their new one with its expensive flue cost £2,500. Dressing the house cost an extraordinary £7,000, which is totally mad. And even the things they had in the budget all seem to have gone up. £2,000 for the kitchen ended up at nearly 4 times that. They'd allocated £2,500 for the bathrooms, but even without the ensuite they managed to spend £4,100. And decorating the house soared from £2,500 to £3,600. Restoring the windows went from £3,000 to £3,200, and the garden cost just £650. The heating and electrics budget went from £1,000 to a staggering £9,000. With fees of £20,730, the total budget is 3 times more than they'd allowed, £83,680. And that means Tracey and Amiya need to sell this house for £452,000 just to break even.
It's lovely. Fabulous job. Very, very nice.
Right, well this room's a bit of a surprise.
Oh, that's great. A really good bathroom.
Not sure why this is a study. It's not necessary to be a study. It's crying out to be a kitchen.
Excellent. I love what they've done here. It's very light, very bright.
I think the dining area should be here, the living area should be there, and a fireplace should have gone against the wall.
Nice room, plenty of wardrobe space. It's not a big room, but it really does work well.
Garden's lovely. I think this actually could be one of the main selling points of the property.
I'd suggest an initial marketing figure of around £430,000.
I'd suggest that the property goes on the market at £425,000.
I would look to put this property on the open market at £440,000.
We had 3 estate agents in to value it. They came in at 425, 430 and 440. So if you took the average of those, it's 432. How do you feel about that?
That's yeah. We've also done some research on properties on this road in this area, and we think, well, certainly my gut feel, you can get more than that.
Tracey and Amiya bought the property for £375,000 and they spent just under £63,000. With fees, that figure rises to £83,680, so if they sell at £432,000, they'll make a loss of nearly £27,000. That's a massive loss they can't afford. The trouble is, their mortgage is so high they can't afford not to sell. They just have to hope that someone will be prepared to pay over the odds.
Right. I could easily live here.
This is nice.
Sweet, very pretty.
You know, nice open space, and it's very pleasant on the eye.
Wow. It's a big bed.
Massive bed.
I like the bathroom. It's very spacious, very bright.
A little bit disappointed, I think, you know, with the workmanship, just generally.
If I did it, I would have the fireplace over there.
I think this is a much better room for the kitchen. Definitely.
I think that the kitchen layout and the living room space is nice, but I probably would want to have a little bit larger accommodation upstairs.
None of the viewers put in an offer. But for now, at least, Tracey and Amiya have other things on their mind. Baby Rio. 6 weeks later, I'm dying to find out how they're all getting on.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh, so exciting. Oh, look, this is him. So how much are you going to put on the market for?
450,000.
And that's even though that was higher than the valuations?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I think this house is absolutely gorgeous, and someone is going to come and go, I love it and I want it.
All you don't want to happen is, in a year's time, think, oh, I wish we'd sold it for 430 because now we can only get 420.
Yeah. That's fair.
Okay. So will you develop, do you think?
I think we've had a good taste for it, and I think we've learned so much from it.
So you would do another one yourself?
Yes.
Baby Rio has a beautiful new home, but it would take a miracle for Tracey and Amiya to break even on it. While a rising market is very forgiving of first-time developers' mistakes, the current market isn't. With interest rates rising and house prices levelling off, you have to know what you're doing. I must say I'm surprised that Amiya and Tracey are not put off developing for life. But I'm sure that if they do try again, they'll have learnt from this experience. Next week I'm in Brighton, where a tough market could mean no profit.
I want to do this as a career, and although...
But how could it be a career if you don't make any money?
This is, yeah, no, it's a good point.